Can India end the Russia-Ukraine war?
जब मासूम बच्चों की कत्ल होती है, मासूम बच्चों को मरते हुए देखते हैं, तब हृदय छलनी हो जाता है.
Prime Minister Modi has said on many occasions, in fact 3 or 4 occasions, that this is not an era of war. You have to stop fighting. The Americans think every country is like Pakistan. Every country is malleable and ductile. And Russia has much more to lose. When you become a customer, then you can pressurize the country. But now after his visit, the US has said that India has the ability to urge Putin to end the war in Ukraine. And why does the US say that? The world is looking at this war as to how they can take advantage. NATO is doing that. The Chinese are doing that. It is only India that is saying, let's stop the war. Jai Hind friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues English. Like this video, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. Now, in this entire Russia-Ukraine conflict, is India the final solution? Now, here is a sequence of events and we'll try and analyze for you what role India can possibly play in ending this vicious war which started more than 2 years ago. Friends, the world kept a watch on PM Modi's first visit to Russia since the war broke out and reiterated this question: can India end the Russia-Ukraine war? This is something that I've been saying for a very, very long time, that India is the only credible player in the world who can play a role. India can talk to Zelensky, India can talk to Putin, India can talk to everybody, and Zelensky knows that. Zelensky knows that. And I'll also tell you my point of view later on, in this video, why I think India can play such a fantastic role. But now after his visit, the US has said that India has the ability to urge Putin to end the war in Ukraine. And why does the US say that? Because India is the only great power that is not supplying weapons. China is supplying weapons to Russia. The entire bunch of NATO countries, 32 of them are supplying weapons to the Ukraine. India is not. India is saying end the war. Prime Minister Modi has said on many occasions, in fact 3 or 4 occasions, that this is not an era of war. You have to stop fighting. Now, India has the ability to urge Putin to end the war. And, in the White House, they said this on the 9th of July. This came after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit for 2 days, his official trip to Russia, where he met President Vladimir Putin. And during a press briefing, the White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre, when asked about the Indian Prime Minister visiting Russia, said, "We believe India's long-standing relationship with Russia gives it the ability to urge President Putin to end his brutal war. An unprovoked war in Ukraine, it is critical that all countries, including India, support efforts to realize an enduring and just peace when it comes to Ukraine. It is for President Putin to end. President Putin started the war and he can end the war." Now listen to what Karine Jean-Pierre said during the press briefing.
Second question, Indian Prime Minister Modi is visiting Russia. We all seen the footage that he's hugging, being friendly with Putin, also seeking deepen bilateral relationship. We see that, that Ukrainian President Zelensky already expressed his disappointment. Is the United States concerning that India, as a US ally, might be actually adding Russia either unintentionally or intentionally?
I believe my NSC colleagues have spoken to this. I'll just add that and just reiterate that India is a strategic partner with whom we engage in full and frank dialogue, including their relationship with Russia. And we've talked about this before. So we think it's critical that all countries, including India, support efforts to realize an enduring and just peace when it comes to Ukraine. It is important for all our allies to realize this. And so we also believe India's long-standing relationship with Russia gives it the ability to urge President Putin, to end his brutal war, an unprovoked war in Ukraine. It is for President Putin to end. President Putin started the war, and President Putin can end the war.
Now, it is important to note that earlier the State Department has also expressed concerns that they directly talked to the Indian government about energy and oil agreements between India and Russia. So, Matthew Miller has spoken about India and Russia, their buying of oil and gas, etc., etc. And this is a long story. I don't want to repeat it. But one thing I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's very important that the world realize this. When you sanction a country, you stiffen their spine. That is how human psychology works. And I don't know whether the Americans have learned a lesson from Iran or they have not. After the 1979 revolution in which the Shah of Iran was ousted, he was a pro-American ruler, he was ousted, and then the Ayatollahs took over and this whole thing came, this Shiite theocracy in Iran, etc., etc. America has played every card in the pack. They've used every rule in the book. They tried to overthrow the regime. They tried to send in their special forces. They tried diplomacy. They have tried sanctions. Iran has not broken. Iran has not bent. Iran may be in a bad shape, but the Americans are afraid of Iran today. They do not know how Iran will react. Let me be very honest, ladies and gentlemen. I love Iran, but I don't like their clergy. This is my honest, unbiased view. Iranians are lovely people. I've said that a million times before, and I'll say that a million times more. They're beautiful people, lovely people. The problem is with their clergy. But the thing is that the Americans think every country is like Pakistan. Every country is malleable and ductile, and every country has flexible ethics. That's not true. It may be true of Pakistan, it's certainly not true of Iran, and it is most certainly not true of Russia. When asked by the reporter about the concerns around India and Russia's continued agreements on energy and oil, State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said, "So as I said yesterday, we have been quite clear about our concerns about India's relationship with Russia. We have expressed those privately, directly to the Indian government and continue to do so, and that hasn't changed." Now, earlier, the US called upon India to convey a clear message to Moscow that any resolution to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine must adhere to the principles of the UN Charter, which safeguard the territorial integrity of all member states, including Ukraine. We would urge India, as we do any country when it engages with Russia, to make clear that any resolution to the conflict in the Ukraine needs to be one that respects the UN Charter, that respects Ukraine's territorial integrity, Ukraine's sovereignty. This was said by Matthew Miller again. Now, the thing here is, ladies and gentlemen, that as I said, you cannot solve the problem by disengaging with Russia. You see, when you engage with Russia, let us say countries, especially these European countries and North American countries, they enhance their engagement with Russia. Then Russia has much more to lose. When you become a customer, then you can pressurize the country. When you cut off all links and Russia finds out that somehow, in spite of all this tremendous global pressure, Russia has been able to figure out an ecosystem by which it can not just survive but also thrive. Then what happens? Let me give you a small example, right? I try and cut off a person. In my business deal, I try to cut him off, right? And I say, okay, I will not deal with you. I say that because I wish to punish that person. But that person finds 3-4 more suppliers who are willing to do business. Suddenly, that person does not need me any longer. And this is exactly what is happening in the West, especially the United States of America. What you should have done, Americans should have done, is engage continuously with Russia. You tried to make Russia a pariah state, not learning from your bad experience with Iran. Yes, you can make Iran a pariah state, but you cannot, make Iran bend. That is the problem. If you want to make Russia compromise, if you want Russia to compromise, if you want Russia to actually say that, okay, there will be peace in Ukraine and we will respect the territorial integrity of Ukraine, you have to engage with Russia. This is exactly what Prime Minister Modi has been saying all this while. Unless you talk to Russia, and today the Americans agree. They say that India is uniquely placed, to charter a course of peace. And how is India uniquely placed? It is not just because of India's long-standing, more than 7-decade relationship with the Russians. That is an important part, but that is not the only part. The thing is that India refuses to take sides, and India says, we will deal with this case on merit and let's talk. Russia says, okay, we can deal with Indians. And that is why Russia is dealing with Indians. That is why Prime Minister Modi was given such a fantastic welcome in Moscow. Now, during the bilateral talks with Putin, Prime Minister Modi expressed his concerns over the human toll of the nearly 29-month-long war in the Ukraine, particularly the loss of innocent lives. So PM Modi made a direct appeal to end the Ukraine war, which has been going on for over 2 years. That conversation when PM Modi was talking to President Putin regarding the suffering faced by war-hit citizens, and especially when it comes to children, Prime Minister Modi said, it deeply hurts your heart. You're heartbroken when you see children die. And that is what the Prime Minister said. This was an emotional appeal also. There's a lot of real politics involved, but this was also an emotional appeal made directly to President Putin. What PM said is that when innocent children are murdered, then we see innocent children dying. It is heart-wrenching. That pain is immense.
एक्सेलेंसी युद्ध हो, संघर्ष हो, आतंकवादी हमले हो, मानवता में विश्वास करने वाला हर व्यक्ति जब जानहानि होती है तब बहुत पीड़ित होता है, लेकिन उसमें भी जब मासूम बच्चों की कत्ल होती है, मासूम बच्चों को मरते हुए देखते हैं, तब हृदय छलनी हो जाता है और वो दर्द बहुत भयानक होता है.
Not only during PM Modi's Russia visit, but also during his visit to Austria, PM Modi reiterated the same thing. This is not the time for war. And he stressed on global peace. And most importantly, he said that we didn't give yuddh to the world. Yuddh in Hindi or Sanskrit means war. We gave the world buddh. Now, yuddh is war. So when he says we did not give the world, India did not give the world yuddh or war. India gave the world buddh. Buddh is Gautam Buddha. So he's saying India has always encouraged peace. Our gift to the world has been peace, never war. On July 9th, Ukrainian President Zelensky tweeted regarding the death of 37 people, including 3 children, and he said that it is a huge disappointment and a devastating blow to the peace efforts to see the leader of the world's largest democracy hug the world's most bloody criminal in Moscow on such a day. He was clearly referring to PM Modi and Putin here. So after all this, we can definitely say that India is the final solution to the Russia-Ukraine war. Ladies and gentlemen, why is this so? Because for every discussion, for every negotiation, you need somebody who is credible, a credible third party, and India is that credible third party. In this 2-year war, the world is looking at this war as to how they can take advantage. NATO is doing that. The Chinese are doing that. It is only India that is saying, let's stop the war. We don't need war. Let's talk together. But ladies and gentlemen, my final comments in this entire video is simple. You cannot expect peace by not engaging with Russia. You had a summit in Switzerland. More than 90 countries attended. What happened? What happened? And that summit was, for peace between Russia and Ukraine. But what eventually happened? Nothing happened. Because you did not invite Russia. Unless you engage with Russia, you cannot have peace. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching this video. If you like this video, press the like button, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to press the bell icon. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, Bharat Mata Ki Jai.